justice. Please do not lie. What is the price for your blind eye?
The hell are you supposed to be?
I'm vengeance.
Oh my god! Sometime in the future, we will be seeing the new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson, directed by Matt Reeves. I decided it was a good time to rewatch every live-action Batman movie and rank them. So I got 9 movies here. Let's start at number 9.
Batman and Robin.
This movie is far from the worst superhero movie ever made. I mean, a lot of people put it in that category, but there are definitely worse films. Much worse. That being said, this is by far the worst Batman movie. It completely misses the mark on what makes Batman such an interesting character. Batman isn't flashy, he doesn't wear silvery outfits, he doesn't have a bat credit card. Batman's supposed to be scary. This Batman isn't scary at all. He's not even a little bit intimidating. Hello? Who was that? Who was that? George Clooney? Is that George Clooney?
You don't think I'm intimidating?
What? No, what?
I'm not intimidating enough to play Batman for you?
What? No, I didn't say that.
You're not scared of me?
What is wrong with you?
Well, remember this.
Don't.
Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Anyway, where was I? Batman and Robin. This movie is absolutely wonderful. It's one of the best movies I've seen all year. Batman is very scary in it, which makes it a great Batman movie. If Batman is scary, then the movie is good. The direction is impeccable. I really enjoyed everything about this movie. The script is top notch. The performances. Where is George Clooney's Oscar nom for Bruce Wayne? Am I right? Am I? Right? What Joel Schumacher was able to accomplish with this new action-packed, colorful new take on the Caped Crusader is an achievement in and of itself. I give this movie 5 stars.
Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
This movie's long and dull. It's convoluted and messy. Way too much is happening. Jesse Eisenberg is terrible as Lex Luthor. He's a good actor, like in that Facebook movie. What was that called? Oh, Now You See Me? What was with that scene with the Flash?
Lois is the key.
Ben Affleck was good. He was definitely the best part about the movie. He's pretty good Batman, but he's got nothing on my boy Christian Bale. Batman Forever was the 3rd movie in the Michael Keaton era. It was directed by Joel Schumacher, who took over for Tim Burton. I personally don't think he was as good for the job as Tim Burton was. Also, Michael Keaton didn't want to come back, so Batman is Val Kilmer. I prefer Michael Keaton in the role, but I don't think he was significantly worse. I think he was actually maybe even a little better at being Bruce Wayne, but Michael Keaton was better at being Batman. Apparently people thought that Batman Returns, which was the 2nd movie that Tim Burton did, was too dark for kids, so they tried to make this one a little more lighthearted. As for the villains, Tommy Lee Jones plays Two-Face. I have never seen Tommy Lee Jones this enthusiastic in a role ever in my life. Jim Carrey is going for it too, but he always does. The acting isn't good, the script is not good. I mean, noticeably worse than the first 2 movies. Robin is introduced in this movie, and really this movie should have been called Batman and Robin, because this is when we first see Robin, and then Batman and Robin should have been called Batman Forever, because that's the last one. Chris O'Donnell plays Robin, aka
Dick Grayson.
And he's fine. He's just given really dialogue. This movie is a lot more cartoony than the first 2, in a bad way.
Number 6, Batman 1966.
This is one of the cheesiest movies I've ever seen. The acting is very bad. The dialogue is even worse. Just look at the costumes. Batman looks like he got his costume out of a Happy Meal. But I get the sense that it's kind of what they were going for. They were going for that cheesy cheese. Like, it's supposed to be dumb. I mean, there's no way that they were doing this scene and thinking that it was actually some cool action scene. Like, that has to be intentionally funny, right? Right? So judging it on that level, it's fun, it's funny. The romantic subplot is pretty bad though. And Adam West is like really over the top with that. He's purposely going overboard with it though. At least I hope he is. Now Robin is either the best part of the movie or the worst part of the movie. You decide. It's hard to tell. The whole movie he's saying things like holy horseshoe, holy nightmare. And if you like the sound of that, you'll like him. If not, well, you'll wish. Overall, this movie is hilarious, but comedy isn't really what I'm looking for when I want to watch a Batman movie. I don't want to see him running around holding a bomb over his head, not knowing where to throw it like an idiot. That's why it goes at number 6.
Number 5, Batman Returns.
Tim Burton returned to direct Batman Returns. I like both the villains. We got Danny DeVito as the Penguin and Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. Danny DeVito's Penguin is kind of sympathetic. The film opens with him as a baby and he was a demon baby and then he kills his cat. So then his parents throw him into the river and then he floats downstream into an underground sewer that's filled with penguins. And that's his origin. He's disgusting looking, but it works well for his character. You kind of feel sorry for him because of what his parents did to him, but then at the same time, he's evil and creepy. His name is Oswald Cobblepot, because of course it is, if you look at the picture of him. Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman, after she sees too much Christopher Walken pushes her out of a window, she falls, hits the ground, and then cats swarm her, and she becomes Catwoman. Okay, so it doesn't all make that much sense, but it's still an enjoyable movie. Oh yeah, and then Michael Keaton is in the movie too. He's not in it for like the first 45 minutes. I actually looked this up, and throughout the whole movie, he has less screen time than Michelle Pfeiffer does. And he's the title character.
Number 4, Batman 1989.
Starring Michael Keaton as Batman and Jack Nicholson as the Joker. I don't fully buy Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne. He doesn't really seem that, like, cool, I guess. He just seems like a regular guy. But when he's Batman, he's pretty cool. Jack Nicholson as the Joker is perfect. The scene where he's shooting up the mob boss, that's hilarious. And then the scene where he goes into that art museum with his gang and, like, they're playing Prince on, like, a huge boombox and just throwing paint on all the art. Like, what? My problem with the movie is that Bruce Wayne isn't explored that well. We don't really know why he's Batman, and you don't really need that in a Batman movie, but if you don't have that, then you at least need to expand on his character. And how they could have done that? Well, tune in next week to find out. Number 3.
The Dark Knight Rises.
The Dark Knight Rises gets a lot of hate, but I really like this movie. Tom Hardy as Bane is incredible. I mean, look at those traps. His body is so good in this. He's not super toned, he's nice and thick, but like really muscular at the same time. Anne Hathaway is probably my favorite Catwoman. It's either her or Halle Berry. Michael Caine is amazing in this movie. His performance is genuinely really emotional, and I think this might be his best performance. This movie really closes off the trilogy well. It's a direct sequel to The Dark Knight that continues to explore the conflict with Batman taking the blame for Harvey Dent so Gotham doesn't lose hope. It's also very connected to Batman Begins, as Ra's al Ghul's child is the main antagonist. This movie really explores the character of Bruce Wayne. He's barely even in the Batman costume, but I personally don't think it matters. Is this movie as good as The Dark Knight? No. It still earns its spot in the trilogy, as it's just as good as Batman Begins. Speaking of Batman Begins... Batman Begins is the first Batman movie that actually gets it right. This movie actually goes into the character of Bruce Wayne. This is the origin story of of Batman, which we hadn't seen in previous interpretations of the character. This works very well for this movie because we understand his motivations and his reasonings behind how he became Batman and how he fights crime. This movie is stacked with talented actors. These casting choices are by far my favorite versions of the characters. Alfred, Gordon, Bruce Wayne. Christian Bale is one of my favorite actors of all time. He's so talented. He's really easy to work with too. This version of Bruce Wayne actually seems tortured from the death of his parents as compared to the other actors who were more confident. This Bruce Wayne persona is an act that can only be seen through by Alfred and Rachel. Really, the only flaw that this movie has is the action. It's not that well done, at least the fight scenes. It's really hard to tell what's happening, but there honestly aren't that many fight scenes in the movie, which brings me to my next point. The characters. This movie is less of an action movie and more of a character study. Actually, you could say that about all three Nolan Batman movies. I mean this in a good way, where the action isn't the forefront and instead the characters are. The film becomes a lot more interesting to me. Every character in this movie is well written and developed. And I mean every character. Morgan Freeman plays Lucius Fox, who I don't even think is in the comics, and he has an arc in this movie. He plays like a Q from James Bond type of person who like supplies Batman with his gadgets and stuff, and even he has an arc by the end of the movie, and a nemesis. This is the first movie that actually gives Commissioner Gordon something to do, and he's my favorite character in the movie. Oh, and Liam Neeson is also in it, and he's great too.
Obviously.
And talk about fantastic casting.
Michael Caine
Is Alfred. I can't see any other Alfred after seeing him as Alfred. Oh, and the music. The score for this movie it really emphasizes the action, even if the action isn't that good. This is probably the greatest superhero origin movie ever made. And somehow, he tops himself with the sequel.
Number 1, The Dark Knight.
The villains are obviously a standout. Heath Ledger's performance is amazing. Even though I think Katie Holmes was a good Rachel, I think Maggie Gyllenhaal is definitely an upgrade. So that's another plus. The action in this movie is fantastic. Way better than from Batman Begins. Like, Nolan somehow went from not being very good at action to all of a sudden being really good at action. I mean, and look at that action in Tenet. That's some growth right there. This movie explores Batman not just as a character, but as an idea. It's definitely the best Batman movie ever made. By best Batman movie, I meant the best Batman movie in the Dark Knight trilogy. Best Batman movie overall is Batman and Robin, starring George Clooney, who deserved an Oscar. At least an Oscar nomination for his role as Bruce Wayne / Batman, and I would have voted for him to win the Oscar as well. So yeah, that's number 1, 10 out of 10. And that's about it, so bye.